All right, let's dive into this because if you're a Brewers fan or just a baseball fan in general, this past trade deadline probably left you scratching your head. Personally, I think it's one of those moments where you can't help but feel a mix of frustration and curiosity. Was it a swing and a miss? Or was there something deeper going on here? That's what we're unpacking today, but not just this year's deadline. We're looking at the Brewers' trade deadline history and what it tells us about the team's strategy. Because, let's be honest, the Brewers aren't exactly known for throwing their farm system into the fire every July. And that's both a blessing and a curse, right? Here's the thing. Trade deadlines are like a high-stakes poker game. You've got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. And the Brewers? They've had some moments. Take 2008, for example. Now, technically this wasn't a trade deadline deal, but it happened in July, so I'm counting it. The Brewers landed CC Sabathia from the Indians, and honestly, that move was huge. Sabathia wasn't just a pitcher, he was a catalyst. He led the Brewers to their first playoff appearance in over 2 decades. But here's the kicker, the cost. The Brewers gave up Zach Jackson, Matt Laporta, Rob Bryson, and, wait for it, Michael Brantley, who went on to become a 5-time All-Star. What does this tell us? Sometimes you got to give up a lot to get a lot. But it also raises a deeper question. Was it worth it? In my opinion, absolutely. Sabathia's impact was immediate and transformative. Now, let's jump to 2018. This deadline was like a masterclass in balancing risk and reward. The Brewers went all in, adding Joakim Soria, Mike Moustakas, Jonathan Scope, Gio Gonzalez, and Curtis Granderson. What makes this really interesting is the mix of players they brought in, veterans with playoff experience, guys who could steady the ship. Moustakas, for instance, was a slam dunk. His walk-off hit in the NLDS? Iconic. But Scope? Yikes. He batted .202 and was basically a non-factor. From my perspective, this shows the unpredictability of these moves. You could do all the research in the world, but sometimes it just doesn't click. Then there's 2021, a season that felt like it had all the ingredients for something special. The Brewers traded for Willy Adams, who was basically a different player after leaving Tampa Bay. His 20 home runs and 26 doubles? Game-changing. Eduardo Escobar was another big pickup, but here's where it gets tricky. While he put up solid numbers, it didn't feel like he moved the needle as much as expected. And let's not forget Daniel Norris and John Curtis, 2 moves that, in hindsight, were kind of head-scratchers. Norris didn't pan out, and Curtis got injured almost immediately. What this really suggests is that even the best-laid plans can go sideways. So, where does this year's deadline fit into all of this? Honestly, it feels underwhelming on the surface. The Brewers added Antonio Senzatela, Dustin May, and a few others, but it's not exactly a headline-grabbing haul. But here's the thing. Pitching wins championships. And if you take a step back and think about it, the Brewers pitching lab has a history of turning good pitchers into great ones. Senzatela and May have already shown flashes of brilliance. What many people don't realize is that these moves might not be about immediate impact. They're about setting the stage for October. One thing that immediately stands out is how the Brewers approach these deadlines. They're not the Dodgers or the Yankees, throwing money and prospects around like confetti. They're calculated, almost methodical. And while that can be frustrating for fans who want a big splash, it's also what's kept them competitive without gutting their farm system. In my opinion, that's a trade-off worth considering. So what's the takeaway here? Trade deadlines are as much about what you do as what you don't do. The Brewers' history shows us that sometimes the best moves are the ones that don't make headlines. And sometimes the ones that do can backfire spectacularly. As we look ahead, I can't help but wonder, will this year's under-the-radar approach pay off? Or will they look back and wish they'd taken a bigger swing? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Because at the end of the day, that's what makes baseball and these deadlines so fascinating.